If you would have told me 6 years ago, back in 2016, that the A-10 Warthog was coming into War Thunder, I would have said that you're completely misinformed, you're stupid, you're wrong, and quite possibly mentally handicapped. And considering I'd have been like 14, I'd have probably actually said it exactly like that. Here we are, 6 years later, and the A-10 Warthog is in War Thunder, and that just blows my mind because it really just shows you how far this game has come and gives you a nice glimpse at the future of the game on top of that. Now, as many of you may know, I usually do not cover dev content, and the reason being is just because I think it's kind of pointless. It's not gonna be like this when it comes to the real game, so why would I waste time making a video on it that I'm just gonna have to redo once the actual vehicle comes out? And that is the case still for the MiG-23 and the F-104. I'm gonna hold off on making a video on those until at least the next dev server or something changes, if there will be a next dev server. But I figured after that community poll, you guys seem to want dev content, you want my input on what's coming into the game, and hey, if that means I get a couple extra views in the process, then I'd be a fool not to take that. So getting into the A-10 itself, man, this thing is, well, I don't really play ground RB, so I don't know exactly what kind of SBAA it's going to be going up against, like SAMs and whatnot. That could have been something very easy for me to check, but those of you who want to play the A-10 probably already know that. So it seems like it's going to be very powerful, but of course, depending on how strong the SBAA is, it goes pretty slow, so maybe it's going to be quite vulnerable. But man, this gun, it's so fun. It's kind of silly because it's just me shooting PvE AI ground targets, I guess. But I've actually never had something so satisfying in War Thunder than hosing tanks down with this 30mm, because as you're seeing in this footage, it is an extremely powerful gun. And I'm able to go through, Russian MBTs like the T-64. I'm going right through the front plates of M48s and the T-95 E1, I think it's called. And it's only supposed to have like 100mm of penetration. Don't know if that's historically accurate or not, but that's what we have in War Thunder. Just that 100mm of penetration allows you to absolutely decimate a tank from literally anywhere. You can be side on, front on, top down especially. But the A-10 is going to penetrate the armor because when you're shooting that many rounds at a target, one of them is inevitably going to find its way into a chink of that armor, and you almost always get a kill if you shoot a target for any longer than a second or two. It does of course have a bunch of air-to-ground smart weapons and stuff like that. Those of you who do play 9.7 and really just top tier close air support in general are probably mostly familiar with all of them already. I'm not going to cover them in this video. There's plenty of people making A-10 content. If you want a full in-depth overview of the A-10, then go there. This is mostly just going to be my opinion on the plane itself and how I think it's going to fit into the game. Especially in the air RB setting, because it's going to be the most powerful in ground RB, but I pretty much only play air RB, so I figured that's probably what you're here to listen to me for. From here on out, as we're moving into the video, the gameplay and footage whatnot in the background is not necessarily relating to anything I'm saying. It's just kind of there for entertainment as you hear me talk about my thoughts on the A-10. And first and foremost, this plane is not going to be a good air-to-air fighter. I am so sick of seeing that on Discords, Reddits, what do you call them, the forums, whatnot, where people just start talking about the A-10 and they say maybe it's missing maneuverability, or they think it's going to be some kind of cracked air-to-air fighter, and it's just not, especially at a battle rating of 9.7. In fact, most of the 8.7 fighters can probably beat the A-10 in a dogfight. Now, of course, if you're flying the A-10, you're gonna get air-to-air kills when you're playing it in air RB. It's just going to happen. That's just what happens in air RB. Every once in a while, you get a kill that you really shouldn't have, strictly due to player skill. If you're playing an enemy that is significantly lower skill than you, it doesn't matter what plane he's in, he's still probably gonna lose to you. So yeah, please stop saying that the A-10 is gonna be a good fighter, because it's not. All of the 9.0s, if not all of the 9.0 fighters, will absolutely destroy this plane in a dogfight. The A-10 does not go over 700 kilometers an hour in a straight line. It'll go like 705, but for the sake of argument, it doesn't go over 700 kilometers an hour in a straight line, and it bleeds energy extremely quickly. It doesn't really get it back that quickly because its engines are not that powerful, And while, yes, you can turn inside of people, it's mostly because of the fact that you're just going to be slower than people for most of the time. It's not necessarily because your turn rate's cracked, it's literally just because they're going to be shooting out in front of you as you're turning into them, because you're just a whole hell of a lot slower. This can be easily remedied on the attacker's point of view if he simply takes you into some kind of energy trap, some kind of stall fight, and you're not going to live. It does have slightly impressive turning capability. You might want to watch out for the A-10 when it's going about 500 to 600 kilometers an hour. It can get some pretty good degrees a second in a turn, but other than that, not really. It's going to be pretty much a free kill. Granted, you're staying behind it, which as I've explained is not all that hard to do, but let's just say, for argument's sake, because it's going to happen once in a while, the A-10 is in an offensive position. The 30mm, fantastic at killing air targets. If you're within 1.5 kilometer range of the A-10 and he's got his nose pointed at you, you're in danger. The 30mm has plenty of velocity. I think it's only slightly less than the Vulcan. It's still got a cracked fire rate, and it does even more damage than the Vulcan, significantly more so. So it's not that hard to aim at extremely long ranges, especially at 9.7 where not everything is going supersonic at all times. So you definitely want to be careful about those long-range 30mm shots. I'm sure somebody out there is going to get pretty good at doing those. And it should go without saying, but judging by the games I get in on War Thunder, full commit head-ons is never a good idea, and it's especially not going to be a good idea against an A-10, so please just don't do that. The other most significant thing about the A-10 is the A9L, and that's actually what I'm going to finish up the video talking about. I'm also going to have some clips, demonstrative clips that have some captions kind of explaining what's going on, but I'm very, very disappointed with how Gaijin's implemented the A9L, and because on one hand it's significantly underperforming for top tier combat on things like the F104S or ASA, whatever it's called. The way the A9L is modeled right now, there's absolutely no reason it couldn't have been added back when the R60M was added. I had always said the A9L was going to be too strong. It's significantly better than the R60M. You do not want it in the game right now, but with the way it is, there was really no reason not to have it. It is a severely gimped A9L, and to be honest, not all that threatening for top tier. It's still very flare susceptible. Can randomly just miss a shot similar to what you see on the AIM-9G, and it doesn't really pull all that hard off of the rail like say an R60M does. Of course, having all aspects is going to be nice. It's probably still going to be one of the best missiles at top tier, don't get me wrong. I'm just saying I expected it to be a lot better, and it does concern me with adding future aircraft that are going to rely on AIM-9Ls. How are they going to perform when they're using such a gimped missile? I really do hope that the AIM-9L is buffed in the future. With that being said though, it kind of annoys me because on one hand I kind of feel like Gaijin has added the AIM-9L in such a gimped state because the A-10, the premium one, is going to be carrying them at a battle rating of 9.7. Of course, you don't want the real modeled AIM-9L fighting Sabres and MiG-15s. That would be ridiculous. And so I feel like the AIM-9L should be a lot better than it is. But with the current state of the game where only 2 aircraft are going to have the AIM-9L and one sits at a battle rating of 9.7, I can understand why it's so gimped. I just really hope that that's changed in the future, and if that means the A-10 goes up in battle rating or it gets the AIM-9Ls removed, then so be it, but I think it's going to be a necessary change in the future. That pretty much wraps up the thoughts I've had on the A-10 from the couple of days I got to play with it on the dev server. Should you buy it? Should you not buy it? That's not for me to decide, though I will say it was pretty enjoyable on the couple hours I put into it, not even on the dev server. So I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope I'll see you in the next one. See ya.